Alright, this is gonna be another one of those commentary type of videos because people did say they wanted another one in the last one I uploaded. And it probably still won't happen often, but with this one I'm gonna try and get across a point of what it's like trying to force out negates and how they can very drastically change the outcome of a game depending on your opponent's thought process. I played Rated for like 1 or 2 hours and I couldn't find any good games, so I went back and dug through some of my saved replays. Well, not like saved in game, but in like recorded format. So I would have something to talk about since it was kind of hard to find a good game. But I think I'll begin now. Actually, wait. Something pretty important to remember with Striker is that you gotta think like an anime character. Not this one, but you can't be someone who gives up without trying. And you do have to think of it as like a journey, basically. Because if you just see like a really tough board and give up, you're probably never gonna get better. Like even if you can't win, because not all boards are breakable, you still have to try. So, and the opponent could misplay too. So yeah, you have to think of it like an anime basically. So I think I'll continue now. Anyway. Now the game starts off, the opponent chose to go first, and I see my hand. It's okay. It's not the greatest. It's weak to max C if I have to actually try to break the board. And I do see I have a bell, which means it's one of the older replays where I ran more hand traps besides like just Stash and Invern. And he starts off with the Manadium guy, and I'm instantly thinking I lost because he's gonna put up a bunch of negates. And if this bell doesn't stop his Trisukta that he summons here, I'm probably never winning anyway. And he has the called by, which is typical of your average Master Duel opponent. But and he searches Pearl Rhino, which makes me think it's like some Vanadium deck still. Searches Reichphobia, and he uses the Visas. And he already has one, so I don't remember how many Visas these decks usually play, but he does his usual thing that'll get him to a Baron and let him continue comboing. And he searches Havnus. Now that's kinda weird. Which, at this point, I'm thinking that, well, maybe this isn't Manadium after all, but searching Havnus means he didn't search Shiren and he didn't search Rhino, obviously, because he normaled the, what do you call it? I don't know, the Manadium Visas, whatever it's called. And he activates this, but either way, not searching Shiren means he doesn't have a card he wants to discard with Shiren, I think. Because a lot of people would just take the gamble there. But anyway, he discards the Havnus he searched, which I guess makes sense, and I assume he would send the tier cache, right? Yeah, he does send the tier cache, and he fuses Havnus and Rhino, goes into Kit. I guess you search something with Kid, it's either Scream or one of the traps, and you mill with that, and then you could revive it. He searches Meta Noise. Now, obviously that's not that great against Striker, but my only starter is Roze, which is kind of unfortunate, so if she gets booked I just lose. And his first mills or those his first mills, I don't really remember, but it was City and Maxi. And now he gets to do his mill, what is it, 8? And he mills 3 blanks basically, those don't matter. They usually only run 1 Sark, so... I mean, some it's not usually, because it's either 1 or 2. But he mills the Snow, which is further annoying, because even if I can somehow get Roze on the grave, I have to worry about Snow. So now he gets to Rulkallos. And the thing about dealing with Rulkallos as Striker, like even if I were to draw a Ray, I normal her, he activates Snow, Snow comes out, he tries to book Ray, I tag out with Ray, and then he negates a Rulkallos, and then Rulkallos doesn't even go to the grave, and he has the Baron for the Widow either way, so it's looking kinda grim. And like, I mean obviously I do have the burner, but that's pretty much using up all my hand just to try to get something on the board to be able to play with. And at this point he's summoning Snow, and it gets kinda weird because he summons like a Protect Code Talker, goes into a Firewall. He summons that back, and now he can go into add Tear Cache back to hand, I guess. Summon it, and at this point I think it's pretty weird what he's doing. He banishes like 7 more, 1 from hand. I guess you weren't using right Crowway anyway. And he makes the Singularity. Now, this is looking pretty grim. But a pretty important point here is that obviously I'm going to start off with the burner. I could use it on the Rulkallos would come back. And that might be kind of threatening. But it does play into Talents and Thrust, and either way, the Baron has to go at some point, so I just use it on the Baron. Now, I could use it on the Rulkallos, but I would still have to deal with the Baron, which is pretty much a dead sentence. Like, there's no easy way out of this. So I decide to use it on the Baron. Now, something very important to remember here is that good players will often just let their Baron die if they see you lead with Afterburner, because it's basically just saying like, hey, negate this so my Talents and Thrust are alive. But obviously you can't judge someone too much, because like some people may have a different reasoning for wanting Baron live. Like maybe they think the opponent's hand is crazy and they want it to be able to tag into something from the grave on the next turn, so we'll just let him continue. Obviously I do need him to do that though, which is really lucky for me that he did, otherwise I would have been like in an absolute shit situation where I'd have to use Called By on Snow. And like I do know his set cards are Meta Noise and I think Sulyak, right? I think that's what it was, and I know he has an unknown in hand that he didn't set and he didn't want to discard with a Shiren, which makes me think it's a hand trap. So we'll continue for now. And it is a hand trap because I do go for the Thrust. I wanted to search Engage and I use Call By on that. Now, if this is me and I'm the tier player and I see Striker has 2 cards in hand and they started off with Burner on a Baron and they've like still not tried to start playing, I am like 100% using the Snow to banish. Like the Baron's used, this is used when Meta Noise, wherever it is pretty much dead in this matchup. That's like 4 cards. And I guess he probably has 3 more. This could also go like, I mean, you want this to be untargetable either way, so. He lets it through. I think that's a mistake on his part. So like first it's one questionable play, but now it's another mistake. So obviously I'm capitalizing on the mistakes here. I get to search, and I get very lucky to draw the Imperm. Like in this situation, it's already clear that if I summon Roze, I lose. Now I have to steal this so his traps aren't live, and I have to steal this so I can target this later. Obviously the Baron's a vanilla at this point, so obviously I use the Double Widow and take these. Now something that happens a lot when you steal cards against tier players is that they summon the Snow and try to book one of them, but you can just flip the card up right after. You shouldn't rely on people being like bad players like that. I mean, I obviously hate the phrase bad player because it could just be someone who doesn't know how the interaction works, but yeah. And obviously I have to go into a link. I can't attack with Rulkallos because if I attack I won't be able to change her battle position if he books her with Snow. And I banished the Snow from the grave. Now I could have saved her. I mean, I don't know if it's worth it at that point, probably not. And I have to crash IP here because if I summon Roze, he just bounces her with Singularity and it's pretty much over. And now I use the Imperm on the Singularity so she can't get bounced. Summon Roze, go into Kaguri, add back the Engage. And at this point I have to get really, really, really lucky. I don't remember if he has anything in his grave for the Singularity. Like he could bounce Kagari, but I get lucky with the linkage. Steal that, bounce the singularity. So now I've pretty much dealt with everything. Now I should not have done this. Revive the Roze, summon Azalea. Now, I know his back rows are both tier cards. I know one is Noise. I don't remember if I knew one was Sulliek or not. I would have to check the logs. Actually, he mills screen, so he probably like searched Sulliek, right? Yeah, so this is a misplay. I should pop the field spell, because popping either of these does get him the follow-up, which is kinda a misplay on my part. So I could have thrown by him getting lucky with it. So this is not something you should not blindly pop to your back row. And this goes to show, like, even though I do upload some of these games, I do make pretty clear misplays. Yeah, I'll just continue. So I searched his Shizuku, like, before main, in the main, he could have used that as well. So he doesn't have to worry about, like, linkage dodging. And I do save the linkage in cases. So that's another misplay on his part, I think. I searched the shark now. I could use it, revive the Baron, and then, like, if he has a play negated, he activates the Sulliek, negates the Baron. But I decided to keep it because I want the shark for Baron on my turn. I take the Baron, revive it, and then I can pop, or I can revive Roze, and then if he bounces it with Singularity that's coming back, I can just normal her again. And if Shizuku, or not Shizuku, Hayate somehow lives, I can just pop the Singularity with Baron. So yeah, that's why I did that. Now he uses that, he gets no lucky mills and ends his turn, but this is like pretty much me showing that my misplays here could have cost me the game. Like, obviously my opponent misplayed too, but his misplays were a lot more egregious, I guess. Actually, mine were probably a lot worse, I don't know, but this just shows that not all games are perfect, and you do have to rely on your opponent's misplaying sometimes to win Striker. But you still gotta think of it like an anime, you know? You gotta try your best, think of it like a journey. You can't be someone who gives up, you know? But I'll go on to the next replay. Get rid of motivational anime girls. Now this is another game. I think I disconnected at the end of this one, but it was a definite win. So we're just gonna watch this one for now. I see someone start off with cash. Now I think my hand, assuming it's cash, well, it's not safe to assume it's cash because usually like Snake Eyes would search Birth as well, or something teching in cash tier unicorn. But if it is cash tier, I do have the ham, so if I get a play starter, it's pretty nice, I think. But he normals Fenrir, searches tier cash. Now this still doesn't tell me anything. Maybe he wants to like banish something from grave, I don't know. But it's looking like tier at this point, and he summons a Tomahawk. Now this makes me think it's cash again, because usually there are those weird cash players that put a Tomahawk in their deck and go for some extremely obnoxious combo that ends on Colossus and Baron and whatever, but he goes into some card I've honestly never seen in my life, and now he goes into Win, which makes me even more confused. But it all becomes clear when he links his 3 wind monsters with different types into Curious and then sends a Snow. And he mills a Rhino, and he can send the tier cash that he searched out his hand. Does his usual tier nonsense, he gets lucky and mills a Destrudo, which means I'm dealing with Baron now. Searches Scream, so it's looking like he's gonna mill 11, which is even more grim for me. Now he mills nothing of note aside from that Trivy Karma really, but then he mills 2 Shufflers. Now, one Shuffler as Striker is already backbreaking to deal with because it means your Kagari is basically doing nothing, but he mills a second one. And that means that my spell count is going to be absolutely abysmal this game. He still has the Birth, which my Duster might be negated by the Barone, you never know. But I mean, I do have Duster for it, but we'll just continue. At this point, I'm already writing the game off as a losing scenario, where my tier opponent just milled absolutely crazy, and I lost because of that, but you never know. You can always rely on your opponent misplaying to win an otherwise impossible game. So he has Sulliek, he does Trivi Karma for Meta Noise, goes into a Cross Sheep, who knows what else he's doing now. He banishes 7 for Snow, goes into Mask, revives something, goes for Redoer, revives its Fenrir, and sets 3. Now I know 2 of those are Sulliek and what is it called? Meta Noise. I don't know the last one. I would assume it's like called by Imperm, something like that, but we do have a Duster. So we'll see what happens. I'm not gonna pause it, I'm gonna pause when he steals something. So he steals a Droplet, which is stealing a spell is the most likely thing to happen. He could draw. If he drew a Crime and draws into a monster, that would probably be the end of the game. But I start off with Burner. I could start off with like Change of Heart, but I think I have to get rid of the Baron now. And as you can see, he does not negate it, so this kinda situation tells me that he's probably a good player for not negating it, which is very rough really, because now I have to use another card to make Talents live because I still don't have a playable hand. Like even if I were to like now Duster and then like it's still not 3 in grave for Widow to be live, and even if I do get 3 in grave yet Shufflers to put them all back, so I can't even like Change a Heart and Widow even if it were possible to have 3 in grave and then like link into Chameleon. So we'll just continue. And I do Duster, and his last card was Called by the Grave. Obviously, like, if it's tier, it's gonna be Called by or Super Poly. Sometimes Imperm or Cross Out, but that's pretty much expected. And he lets it happen because obviously there's nothing you really can do, but he gives him a bunch of fuel for Snow. And now I use Change, or he gets to add Tier Cash and Search Rhino. And now I think I could Change of Heart on the IP to take it. Like obviously that's like saying, hey, please use your IP. Or I could use it on Fenrir. But knowing that this is Striker, if I were to take the Fenrir and he does nothing about it, I have like no spells engrave. So that would be rough. Or no spells engrave, I don't have a free monster zone, so obviously I could like normal Ray and then link them off, go into something, then he does IP, links into SP, banishes my thing, then the Shuffler gets rid of Ray. So there would be no reason for him to do something about Fenrir being taken. And even if I do take it, since he kinda knows what he's doing, and you let Striker give up their battle phase with a stolen Fenrir, you're in a good position. So I think the choice here, it has to be Redoer. Because even if I take a Kaleido, I think he has Snow to book it for him to attack. I would have to have Ray, which I don't, so it has to be Redoer. And this does like let him fuse. I think he still has Rulkallos and Gray, so you would get the fuse with the Shiren underneath, and you get a draw, so it makes sense to use it there, at least from his perspective. So he goes into Rulkallos. Well, there's like a plane overhead or something. I'll wait for that to finish. And I use Talents. Like obviously I have to draw 2. And I do get lucky drawn to the Thrust. So obviously I'm gonna thrust into Engage here because I have to. And now I think I have 6 engrave. Like, okay. I think this is where the opponent starts messing up, because he uses a shuffler to get rid of 3, and then I would be with 3 spells engraved, and I still do get the extra draw, but he uses his second shuffler. Now, this is what I mean by you have to hope to get lucky and hope your opponent messes up. I personally don't think this is worth it. Like, there are other ways to do this. Like, you could use it on whatever Kagari's adding back later, and it's a lot more annoying for Striker to deal with, because it's very direct. It forces them to use this search on Ray, because I clearly don't have her yet. Well, maybe it's not that clear, but it would force like this search to be on Ray, then it would force like Kagari to add Engage to search a way to deal with the stuff on board. So I think that's a misplay. The odds of me drawing something good are not that high. I searched Linkage. Maybe searching Linkage here is a mistake, but he goes Tier Cash. Now I honestly don't understand this from him. But he mills 3. I guess maybe he wanted some. I still don't know. He used both shufflers. There's not much you can mill. Maybe he wanted to mill another name to go into Stapelia or something, but I still don't think that makes sense. Whatever. So I set 1 and I go to battle phase. This is something you have to do as Striker a lot, like where you set 1, go to battle phase to deal with IP. Because, like, obviously she can just tag out if you try to deal with her in the main phase, but I do this and I try to steal Rulkallos. Now, this is a very big misplay from the opponent. In all honesty, he wins right here if he lets Rulkallos get stolen, because, like, if Rulkallos gets stolen, I can't use Linkage, and I would have to normal something. And it's not looking like I have something to normal at this point, and even if I were to normal something, like I go main phase 2, normal, and he could like IP to force out an interaction, which would be a monster, and it would have to be Ray. And then like Ray comes back, he Fenrir's, it deals with a lot of the stuff on board. And if I like if I were to take her and crash into a Kaleido, like I can't do that either, because if I attack he can summon Snow, then book the Rulkallos that attacked, and I won't be able to change her battle position. So it is very much a misplay to use Snow here, because obviously I have to chain Linkage here, and then he can just negate it with Rulkallos, and then I just have a Rulkallos that does absolutely nothing. So this was pretty much a lost game at this point, and he was playing well, but he just made this one fatal error, I guess, by wanting his Rulkallos to be not stolen, I guess. And he banishes her too, which is pretty surprising, but we'll just continue. And now that lets me freely activate Linkage, and I can go into Hayate. And I think in the last video I said Roze is one of the best board breakers in Striker, and this part right here is wise, because like I send Roze, she gets to revive, she negates a card on the board, which would either be Fenrir or IP. Now I think it has to be Fenrir, because if I negate like IP, I don't have anything to run over, and I really need to get rid of this board. Like if I run over Snow, he can just summon her back and book Roze, so it makes the most sense to negate Fenrir and run over IP. And now in main phase 2, I'm trying to think. Like I could hamp something, I could Kagari into Engage. Yeah, that's what I do next. So I get the Engage back, and now there are a few things you could Camellia, send something, have another spell engrave, like I guess you could send Cyanos too. And then you get like more link plays, but probably not worth it. I decide to use Zeke and banish Rhino. Like you could banish Fenrir, because the chances of them being able to mill something on your turn are also high, and then the Kaleido shuffle would be kind of annoying. So could have banished Fenrir, but I don't want. I guess I don't want Kaleido being left up on his turn. I mean, I guess I could hamp it, but I think this was the best way to do it, really. So I search multi-roll because I think I do have to. At this point, I have to search. If I want to live the turn, I have to search Eagle Booster and hope he doesn't run Goddess. So this is pretty much the only option, which would be searching multi-roll. And if you do search multi-roll, you have the option of getting lucky with your draws into like a Change of Heart or a Widow. So it does pay off. I do get another engage, which is basically a Widow. And I search Widow, and I get lucky and draw a Change of Heart. Now, this is one of those situations where a board is only breakable through luck. So I steal the Fenrir, I guess send it multi-roll, and I... Was this necessary? I put Hamp over the tier cache. Oh yeah, I guess I wanted to, tier cache is a water. I'm locked into strikers. So it has to be Hamp over her. Cause like if I steal her, there's no way to get rid of her. Like I can't Zeke her cause then she mills too. Yeah, so this does make sense. I steal the snow, send her off with Zeke, and activate Kaina on the Hamp, so I guess I don't have to play into Thrust or something if he attacks. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter that much. I guess I just didn't want to die, because 25 is a lot in tier. And I go end phase, search the Shark Cannon, which he can't respond to because multi-roll is active, and banish the snow. Now this is something that comes up all the time against tier. You have to like make your Shark Cannon unrespondable and get rid of their snow that way, otherwise you're gonna have a very rough time. Like, the snow book doesn't matter too much, but snow dodging all your things like Widow Anchor does, so yeah. I'll continue for now. He activates this shit. Now I do this in the standby to not play into talents, because like if he somehow what do you call it, gets rid of my Kagari, and then like I have to think about, oh, am I gonna live or not? Do I want Ray to come back? And then it plays into talents. He gets rid of my engage, which is my follow-up. That would be very bad. Now he does get extremely lucky and puts the imperm under his redoer, so he can just put the thingy back on top of my deck and I have no top deck next turn. Because like if you clear the board, I just get a multi-roll, and obviously I can't send engage if it's my only card. And then he decides to SP the back row. I banished the IP. I think I was thinking like, oh, I want to revive this, then use it and link into SP to banish one of his things, and then I thought about it later and I was like, oh no, he can just SP to banish my card from board, then it wouldn't matter. So in retrospect here, you should banish the tier cache or some other important engine piece, but I didn't do that. So now he goes into Rhino, which will eventually lead to Rulkallos, which will have to be Widow Anchored. There's no like, debate about it, which is unfortunate because he still does get to banish it, which means it does come back. And he gets to add a Shiren. Oh yeah, he activates a Danger. Like, I mean, you could have done the Danger, discard the... or Shiren discard the Danger. It doesn't matter. He goes into Dugaris. I guess he revive... What is it? Baron or tier cache? Doesn't matter. Obviously Baron's more annoying because he knows my top deck and he knows I only have engage, so you could just negate the engage. But the thing here is that he's skipping his next main phase, so if he doesn't leave at least like 8,000 damage in attack position by the end of the turn, I'm pretty much fine. And only, what is that, only 3,900 damage comes back at the end of the turn, so although I don't have anything to top deck, he's skipping his main phase 1, which means he starts in battle phase with 39 damage, and I guess he has 1850 more with snow. But you get the idea. The point is that I can just pass here and be fine. So he goes into dark. Now, this is questionable. I think the only dark monster I had in my graves was Hamp and Zeke. And something that happens a lot in Master Duel is people go for dark to revive Zeke and then they don't read Zeke and see that it has that line of text that says it can only be link summoned. There's no other way to cheat it out. But he does his usual tier stuff, and I see he's out of cards in deck at this point. And he gets to add a Meta Noise back. He puts Rulkallos in the extra deck again to summon Stapelia. So I think the only thing left is in his extra is Rulkallos at this point, and he uses that to pop the dark so that Roze can't come back. Because that would be another card you have to negate and enables the opponent to play again, so he sets that Meta Noise. And he has 2 cards that don't really matter. So I draw the Droplet, which is, like, this honestly doesn't matter to draw the Droplet here. Because I just have to draw something that I can set to activate multi-roll, so you can't respond to my spells, which means the Baron would not be able to negate engage. So I activate that, go to send the drop. Now, I know it's important to remember here that you can't do engage, and then he activates Baron, and then I change Droplet, because since I'm not sending a monster, you can just SP and then dodge the Droplet negate, so we'll just continue. So I activate engage, search Ray, I get Thrust, which is lucky, I get Raigeki for the Stapelia. I just needed a way to deal with Stapelia here, I think. So I Stapelia, or Raigeki to remove it. He banishes Baron and SP, and he has the Baron negate again, and 2 cards go back into his deck, which are 2 tiers to fuse into Rulkallos, and he's out of extra deck cards. His last card is a Meta Noise. I go into Kagari, add back engage, and then I can search, what do you call it? What's the card? Linkage, and I have Roze and Grave, so then I linkage into Hayate and win. But what happened here was that like my client kind of froze, and then it was like I can't connect to server, blah blah blah, so I get disconnected. Now this is like a win in the world where Master Duel does not disconnect me from the game, because his card is Meta Noise. You can't Meta Noise a Link monster, and I'm swinging for 25 because he can't activate Scream with only, what do you call it, 2 cards in deck. You need 3, and his cards in hand aren't doing anything. But it's pretty much a win, and this is like one of those situations where you have to pretty much rely on your opponent misplaying in order to win, because like he only made 1 crucial misplay, and that was the battle phase part with Rulkallos at this part. Like towards, I think it was like the first turn where he could have just done nothing. I was explaining it, you get the idea. But this game is only winnable through the opponent misplaying and me getting lucky with top decks, but I prefer to not think of it like luck. Like, you put those cards in your deck for a reason, and if you draw them, well, you just put them in your deck because you wanted them for that situation. So I'm not really someone who believes that top decks are bad. Obviously, it's annoying sometimes, like someone could just top deck Cashier Birth after Cashier Birth or something, and you're on Striker and you have to constantly deal with your spells getting banished, but I don't think luck is something you should really complain about too much in Yu-Gi-Oh! Trying to think what else. But this, I think this did a good job of showing like the difference between cards of like Change of Heart and Afterburner in terms of forcing negates. Because in both of the Baron situations, one player chose not to negate it and the other did, and it really did affect the outcome of the game. Obviously, Change of Heart is more likely to force a negate out of Baron, because if you take the Baron, Baron can pop and run something over. So there are things like that to consider when deck building. Like, I wouldn't, like, Change of Heart's obviously not as good right now because Voiceless is really common, even if it does help a lot against like Appaloosa from Yubel, but that's pretty much it for this video, and I hope it helped. So always remember to think of this like an anime, and don't really give up just because you see a threatening board. So I hope that helped, and thanks for watching.